Yeah, so I'm a city councillor at Willowdale, Ward 18. That's 120,000 people. And in fact, in the southern part of my ward, we're currently doing something called a secondary plan review. And they were doing demographic research of the area, and was something like 76% of the people in this area are immigrants. So we have a very high representation of people who are new to Canada, or at least, the first or second generation of immigration. And in terms of my role, so my big vision for being a city councillor is to build a connected community. So I think people should not live in isolation, nor do I think people should live within their own pockets. And as a city councillor who is a visible minority, it's really important to me that people can access democracy. And many times, because of language and culture, people don't. A lot of people don't know who their city councillor is. They don't understand the power that they have as a resident, as a constituent, and even as a voter, how they can participate in shaping their community. So one way that we make sure that we can be accessible is my multilingual staff team. So I have on my team someone who speaks Farsi, Korean, Mandarin, Cantonese, and Hindi, in addition to English. And those represent some of the biggest groups in this neighborhood. So that's like a first step. We often help to either spearhead or support large community gatherings to pull people out of their comfort zone, hopefully, and to intermingle people, and supporting many multicultural celebrations that happen here at Mellesson Square. So that is, one of the ways that we weave. And even when I was canvassing to become a politician, to get votes, I would meet people who did not have, the status to vote, but I would still invite them to stay connected and also to learn more about democracy. I also invited them to volunteer on my campaign as a way to experience democracy. So for me, it's really important to maintain open dialogue and to build bridges regardless of people's voting status in our neighborhood. And I'm here to serve everyone. The number one challenge is a language barrier. People, because of language, stay in their own pocket or become very isolated. I remember one time I was knocking on doors and I met an elderly senior man, and I said, how often do you go out? And he said, I never go outside. And I said, why don't you go outside? And I said all of this in Mandarin because he didn't speak English. And he said, I don't go outside because I don't speak English, and I'm afraid, if I can't speak the language, what people will do to me or what will happen. And I felt so sad to know that here's a senior living in total isolation because of fear, because of language. So to me, that's the number one barrier. And it's not just a barrier for loneliness, but it's also a barrier for integration, because you want people to experience the beauty of multiculturalism, but when they don't have the language skills, they tend to just stay in their own comfortable circle. So, and the way to overcome this is, I think, really excellent ESL programs to try to get people out. And especially if the ESL programs are not just targeted at one culture group, it should be multicultural ESL classes. It's a chance to make friends from different nations. And I feel like that should be an important investment that government should make in creating opportunities for the multicultural society that we are to become more integrated. And I know oftentimes they use the mosaic as the analogy for Canada. Everyone gets to keep their culture. We're like a mosaic. And I actually think a better analogy is we should try to be a tapestry. So we keep our color, but we should be interwoven together, and then we are stronger because we're woven together. So I feel it's very important for us to build a stronger country that we do this. So I think having programs that bring multicultural youth who are not just newcomers to get to know each other. I know, like for example, one of the charities in our neighborhood, NeighborLink North York, they have something called, the Youth Mobilization Network. And so youth come together and volunteer in the community. They do park cleanup. So it's any youth, and I strongly encourage, newcomer youth to get involved. So building a volunteer network, finding needs in the community, and then I think your name says it all, right? Like to have that bridge, that the bridge should be built for people to participate and make friendships. So the city tries to do a lot of multilingual support. So if you call 311, which is the gateway to getting services, you can get over, I think, 150 different languages. So if you say, I don't speak English, I need this language, they will find somebody to help you and make sure you can access the city's services and supports in the language that you need. In terms of participating in decision making, that is, I think, an opportunity for newcomers to get to know their elected officials. So there's their city councillor, their MP, their MPP, and in engaging them, then they can find opportunities to volunteer. They can read about what issues are important to them, and then they can figure out, okay, how can I write a letter of advocacy? How do I make a phone call to support something that's important to me? And, if people just look around them and say, oh, like what does this community need? And they would try to find a solution for that, then they will find a way to participate and shape the community.